Welcome back. We're moving into our next segment, and we're going to be talking about water safety.
Yes. And joining us for this conversation from YMCA Belize is Lynette Palacio, Senior Swim Instructor, and Dr. Clara Cuellar, Executive Director. Good morning, and welcome.
Good morning, Belize.
Nice. Now we know the swim program, or the swim program usually takes place in the summer, but it has been definitely an important part of the YMCA programs for a long time. Let's start off with that.
Well, YMCA is embedded in swimming. We go together, and we feel that in Belize even more so, having the gift of the Lord of so many waters, river and sea, we have made sure that as a YMCA Belize we do it. YWCA does do swimming as well, and that is good at their pool. Because so many children now are not being taught swimming growing up, and it is to be able to safely enjoy something that is so wonderful. Everybody loves the excitement. Then we must teach the skills, and that is why we do it.
Is it only children programs, or do you do adult?
We don't do adults, and the biggest reason the YMCA doesn't do adults, our capacity as a small organization is highly dependent on volunteers, and majority of our volunteers, as a senior instructor, Lynette has been in the program a long time, but her junior instructors are as young as 14. And there's some way, somehow, that adults like yourself and Marlene will give our 14-year-olds a lot of difficulty when they try to teach them. Whereas
That's true, Lynette.
Yeah.
Adults are hard to teach.
You'd be surprised. They are harder. Because they think they know it. So, I mean, come on.
It's
a
hard to
child teaching an adult, it won't work out. It's like correcting your parents, and sometimes they watch you like, oh, are you correcting me? I know better. So it's that kind of situation.
It also has the element of fear. If an adult really does fear water, they don't think the size or the capacity, the mental capacity or experience of the student, they don't trust them. Whereas a smaller child doesn't see that. A smaller child at 5 sees a 14-year-old
As an adult.
Right. And so the trust factor is critical for them to let go from the side of the pool and come in, or the beach side and come in.
So let's talk about how you got involved with the program, Lynette.
I started off as a student. My brother was in the program already. He was one of the senior instructors, and he encouraged me to start. So I started the program, fell in love with the program. Miss Kerr called me every year, Lynette, come back to swim, Lynette, come back to swim.
Yeah.
I eventually finished the program, and then they told me you should come back and be an instructor. So I started an instructor, and this is my 9th year.
So what is it like teaching children how to swim?
At times it's really challenging, but it's actually very rewarding as well.
Yeah.
Because you start off with this child, some of them very terrified of the water, and you're super excited when they actually finally get off the steps. Like, just getting off the step is a major milestone for them and their parents. Yeah. So it's kind of fun to see them smile, and then as they progress, you see them starting to learn, and after repeating it so much, they start to learn it, and when they finally learn it, you're like, okay, yes, I accomplished something, they learned it, so it's very rewarding. But of course, you'll have some children that just love to give trouble, so sometimes it's a little challenging, but the parents work with us, so it makes it a lot easier.
What's the age range that you deal with?
I think it's from 5 up. Yeah, 5.
From 5, usually we will get every summer a few teenagers, and when I'm referring between 14 and 16 that are first-time swimmers, and then those are the students I'll give to Lynette right away. She's extremely skilled at teaching swimming.
Okay.
It's a passion she has. She can develop trust in her students very easily, and she knows how to break down the swimming from basic and motivate them and move them along. So older students will learn faster. So if we have somebody between the age of 13 and 15, 14 and 16, anywhere around there, you want to separate them out because they are understanding you faster, they are more focused, and they can move more quickly. So one of her other joys I can see sometimes at the end of wherever in the section of the pool we have her, is her ability to, within 1 week, having that 14-year-old who hasn't swum the entire time, being fully confident in the fact that, wow, I am now moving along very well. So that is one of the skills she has, the ability to be able to spot what level a student is and then give them the exercises and drills they need to move further.
Now, one of the fundamental issues that oftentimes allow for people to not learn to swim is the fear of water. And it is something, I mean, it's mental. Like, you can't get into the water because you are genuinely petrified that you'll die.
Yeah.
How do you help children and even the adolescents work past that fear?
You know, it's funny. That's like my favorite student to teach. I don't know why, but that's my favorite, because we call them TOWs, because it's not right to say that they're terrified of water in front of their parents, because sometimes they're children and they do understand. So saying that in front of them kind of discourages them. So what I normally do is, you get like a type of toy that they really, really like. Like, I use the little ducks, like, you know, the ones that they use in the bathtub. I use little ducks and sometimes a small ball, and they get really excited to see a toy. And then you just put it on a step. If you could at least get them on a step to sit in the water, that's perfect, because then they realize that, okay, it's just water, it's not that deep, I can deal with this. So you put them to play with the ball, and then when they're not looking, you kind of like pull the ball a little bit and you go deeper, and then they realize, okay, the ball is moving, and then they want to play with the ball, so they kind of come more and more.
You distract them.
Yeah, you distract them, and then until eventually they're in, and then they realize, oh my God, I'm in the water. And then you're like, yeah, you're in the water and you're fine. You're totally fine. You're surviving. You can do this. And then they're like, oh, okay, I can do this. And they start.
Then they love the water.
Yeah, then they love the water. Then they don't want to get out. That's the problem after. They don't want to get out.
Then they become like a typical child. That's what it is.
One of the other elements that we emphasize at that stage too is breathing in water.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of people or programs, we don't start with paddling in water. We start with breathing in water. And if children can get the sense of sitting, as she said, and pouring the water over your face as a game, the other distraction she uses and motivation is 2 or 3 children. You work with one by themselves and then you bring in 2 others, because, you know, when they see their peers doing it, and throw the water on their face and watch them and throw the water. So, and then we start with what we call blowing bubbles. And if the minute a child can blow bubbles and breathe, it's a technique, but it gives confidence. And you take your time, and a lot of high fives, catch them doing something good, talk to them, do the high fives, keep them focused on the little steps at a time.
Now, moving from learning to swim, because it's pretty late in the game for the non-swimmers to learn to swim now.
For Easter.
For Easter, yeah. Let's talk about some water safety issues, because unfortunately, without fail, I won't say every year, but most Easters we have reports of drowning incidents or near drowning incidents that take place. And people don't always know how to respond. So let's talk about some of the preventative stuff first before we move into response.
Okay, some of the preventative measures would be like, always do a head count. Do a head count before you go into the water, while you're in there, and after. Just to make sure that, you know, everyone that you took with you is still there. We don't try to encourage like horse playing and, you know, splashing a lot, because then people that don't know how to swim, sometimes they actually get very terrified when water is in their face, and then they panic. And you don't want someone to panic when they're in the water, especially if they can't swim. That just won't end well.
So discourage horse playing, what we call horse playing.
Yeah, just discourage that. Nothing's wrong with playing, but it's the way you do it, because then someone could actually get really hurt. And then if like none of you know how to swim, then it's gonna cause a problem. Now,
one of the things you said about counting heads when they're going in the water, so do you designate someone to actually be a lookout, or to make sure that everybody's, you know, counted for continuously? Because sometimes the children go in the water and the adults are doing whatever on the land and not really paying attention.
Yeah, it's important to have someone on the shore, because in case of an emergency, that's the person that's going to go get help, or if they know how to help, then they can do it. But it's always important to have someone.
Since we do ours, she's right online in terms of, we call it the deck manager. But in the river and sea situation, we have actually 2 deck managers. We have one in the water who is just looking like they're standing there, but they have their list of duties, like she says. And we have one outside the water. So there's 2 deck managers all the time. And one of the primary duties is head count. Where are they? And so even if you go down, the deck managers know you're down. and they are watching to see when you come up. They're keeping track of that, and that is important. You mentioned parents and young people to swim, and even strong swimmers, like you're saying. We have all our children, they know to swim, they're teenagers, they come and ask, can I go down by the river, or you're out at Placencia, can we go out to swim? The safety is somebody has to be designated. Who is on the beach? Who is the designated manager, the lookout person? And it's easy. Somebody sometimes doesn't feel like swimming. And so even a parent, we have, yes, while we have a responsible drinking, we have a lot of responsible parents. So go socialize by the beachside and have a designated person looking up and making sure. So they must be, so it's not supervision in the water because they're free, but it's this precaution. And I do say this, I look up to parents, to family members, uncles, aunts, please. The most difficult thing is to bring a child of your family member to their parent when something has happened. So, however lazy we are, or tired we are, or wanting to do something else, do not leave our children unsupervised this Easter. It's worth it. It's life-saving because you prevent it before it happens.
So supervision is another important point.
Yeah.
And should there be rules clearly discussed with the group before they go into the water?
Precisely. Precisely.
And what would those rules be?
Like the very basic ones, like don't go in the pool if you just ate. As silly as it may sound, it really does help. If you get a cramp out there, it's gonna be really hard to come back to the shoreline or come out of the pool or anything like that.
So what should be the wait time?
An hour. They always tell you wait an hour before you go into the pool or wherever, whatever water
Even
body.
if they're nagging you, because some children are like, but I feel fine, I just had a little bit.
Yeah, I know, I used to do that. I'm guilty of that. What you do in that case is if you go in, stay on the shoreline, don't go deep at all, and the parent has to keep arm's length from that child. In case of an emergency, you just grab that child. You don't want the child to drift away. You want them to be right in front of you if that's the case, if they're begging to go into the water. But honestly, just don't encourage it.
So rule 1, don't eat. Don't go swimming right after you've eaten. What other rules would you encourage parents to enforce?
So invest in a safety device, like something basic as a noodle. The child holds this under their arm like that, and they'll be perfectly fine the entire time. It holds you up. And then...
So it's not
and they're fun to play with
they're fun to play with.
So it distracts you from horse playing, although they'll use it, but it's there, it holds them up, that thing.
Okay, and then this one is a kickboard. You just hold it out, you kick, you go.
Yeah.
And then it's also safe to hold it, and then it keeps you afloat. So small things like this could really go a long way.
Now, I know oftentimes too, with the other floating devices, the ones you buy that you lay on and whatnot, that there can be a lot of horseplay with those. What's your advice with that?
Like the ones that look like a bed, those could flip easily.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna be on that, I guess you just have to hold on to that. If you flip, you better hold on to that because you could drift very easily with that.
The important thing here is what we're saying. We really have to cut back on the horse playing. The water is fun, but the water can be... Your movement in the water could be dangerous to you. It's your decisions that make it dangerous. So the floating beds, and for older people now, she's dealing with children, the drinking and swimming is even more dangerous than the eating and swimming, because you lose the ability to make good decisions, and you lose the ability to react.
Your response time.
So your whole physical impediment is an issue, including the floating bed. So a couple of young adults, males and females, playing somebody on the bed, you flip them, the girl or the guy who doesn't swim as well is trying to get your attention, but you're not noticing, underneath. And trapped underneath, precisely, trying to get your attention, but you're impeded from good decision making. So it doesn't go well, it doesn't mix. It's like one of our colleagues from Sea Scouts, who I made sure I talked to before we came here, Roberta Potts, said, it's just like boating. The oil and water don't mix. The drinking and water doesn't mix well. It creates a serious problem, neglect. So that is very critical. The flotation devices are fun, but have them around so they have things to play with and hold on to.
Can we talk about the riverways? Because one of the difficult things to manage is knowing currents, and that is really where the strongest of swimmers, even currents and the whirlpools that the river has at time. What's your advice in terms of that?
Well, one of the challenges when you have family and friends coming to visit who haven't swum in the river before, and they feel like they're sea swimmers and I am strong. That's where the bigger danger. We don't hear as much of children under 8 drowning. It's the older people, because we tend to say they can swim. No, no, no. If we're friends or family, then we have to know that I am looking at family members from the river and say, don't dare them. Don't see it as a test and fun.
Swim across the river.
Yeah.
Follow me.
You need to be part of protecting your loved one and say, listen, and I'll do it in Creole. We're going down a river, but when I'm set aside because current pull, and then throw a stick, throw something in that's a little weighted to show them, and when they see that world and are like, wow. And don't use the river as a way to measure your manhood or womanhood. Like I see if I could, because the river will be a river. It's like a dog will bite, the river will not stop doing what a river does. So it's up to us to make good decisions. So the decision making, and that's the fortunate thing. Prevention means I can make the decision beforehand. So again, I say to adults, because as Lynette says, send somebody down by the river. We have a lot of experienced family with river. So go down by the river and sit down and put the little picnic out while they are swimming and limit them, you know.
And then similarly to taking dares and swimming across, there's also the issue of diving.
Yeah, like jumping head first or stuff into water, especially that you can't see.
Or you don't
not clear.
know. I mean, it's one of the. I mean, we've heard
with the rivers, the head
stories.
first diving, and even the leg diving, swimming from, jumping from certain limbs and stuff. If you don't know what's floating, like the last few days, we've had a little unusual weather for this time of the year. So we have had some rains. So I might be jumping at this spot today, but the river is always bringing down other brambles and sticks. So we just had rain, so other things are coming down. So our advice always is to have people in the water, especially for river, that are strong, as well as on the bank. You don't want to leave for river somebody just on the bank.
Or even diving off a pier can be dangerous if you don't know the depths.
The jumping in water from the boat, from wherever, has to always be feet first, and you have to know the depth. The senior person, the most experienced person, should clear if we jump and when we jump. Because just jumping one behind the other in mass groups, you can hit somebody in the group. So there are a lot of really safety precautions, and we're saying the water is a fun place to be, but there are some guidelines to make sure everybody comes home safely. That's the most fun part, that we can sit down together at the end of the day and laugh about what we did. The worst part is to come home with that heavy heart. So let's have no heavy hearts for this Easter. Let's get up and go out and take care of our loved ones while they're in water.
Now, if somebody, are there any other preventative measures that you think need to be discussed, or you want parents to pay attention to?
If a child cannot swim or is not confident, let them wear a life vest all the time. They must have on a life vest. It's just more secure.
And
if
you
you
should
don't
also
have a life vest, I mean, we need to be realistic. And really, Belizeans grew up with these skills.
I was going to talk about the armbands, because a lot of people put the armbands. How safe are those? Because I always freak out about that.
Yeah.
It can slide off.
With those it makes it difficult to learn how to swim with that, because it's supposed to keep you afloat. So learning how to swim, it's gonna be in the way. So if you're trying to learn to swim, that's a horrible way to try to learn how to swim. It is safe, however, but it's not the best option. It'll keep you afloat, but there's only so much you can do with it.
It's better you get a vest.
Yeah.
Get a vest,
Yeah.
strap it on, and the buttons and everything, and it won't pop the way it puts
And make sure it's
and
one
it's
that
even
is
better that you have. I've seen women or Belizean women or fathers or grandfathers or anybody who feels a little, I don't want to swim around. They sit in the water and have the kids playing, so they form a little circle sitting in the water, so socialize. Because at the end of the day, Easter tradition is about fun and family. So you can do it in the water instead of home or under the house, you know, in the hammock. You'll have your hammock moments, but let's have the sit in the water moments. And the best way to help the children with discipline so it's not nagging for you is have structured time we're going to swim. You know, if you have family members who are early risers and they say, I'll take the early dip, then 2 family members go out. I mean, I know
Don't swim alone.
As a family, I am an early riser, and the kids love it because they're so excited to be out. So I'll take the first shift. But around 10 o'clock, I want personal time and I want to chill. So one of my sisters will take over. They'll take that. So break it up into shifts. And then the kids know the rhythm. And then let them know. And a lot of parents do this. Between 11:30 and 2, nobody in the water. We're reducing the sun rays. We're just getting you rehydrated. You're not, you know, and taking a break. Yes, they won't like it. But if you do that every day for the 5 days over there, they get used to it. 6 o'clock we could get one. We come in, we eat something, munch, and you control the eating. Do fruits, banana, back out. Then get the break where the child rehydrates, new sunblock if they need to, wash off the salt water, or just calm down, because escalation of any joy can reach its peak and is harmful, whether in the water or not.
So that was a very good point about calling in your children actually to consume water. Yeah. During the day while they're in the water, because most people say, oh, they're in there, they're not thirsty, they're not this.
They're in water.
Right. So it's important, right?
Right, very important, because dehydration will have serious impact. Tummy aches the night, all kinds of things you will have with, and then lotioning, the sunblock is important. So there are lots of little things, and wash them off. You might not want to. So take a hose, anything. If they're in salt water, wash them off. If they're in
what's the significance of that?
They're just clean. I mean,
okay. No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm asking the question.
Valid question.
Kind of tongue in cheek, but
and so the response. But no, you do want to clean them off. That's part of the relaxation and getting the rhythm off, get the salt off their skin. Even the sunblock that was there off their skin, and let the skin breathe for a while. And then we sunblock you up and get you ready to go out and have your glory again.
And should you have a cutoff time for swimming?
Yes, you should. Stay in the daylight hours, well in the daylight hours. And that's why we're saying pack it in. Adults, I mean, I know you take risks, usually in smaller numbers, but you'll find that the adults who choose to go into the beach at night tend to stay close to the side. But stay, and definitely let's not have any jumping off boats at night, that sort of stuff.
Now, what happens if you are in a scenario where someone seems to be like they're drowning? Well, how do you respond?
Okay. The rescue part, we like to say, if you're not trained on rescue and you go in, and that has happened repeatedly in Belize, then don't go in. 2 or 3 people go down.
Yeah.
Okay? And so that is very critical. One has to have training. Because
is there a level? Because this is what happens, I think, sometimes. You see somebody maybe panicking, maybe they start splashing. They don't usually scream. It's not like television. You don't hear them, you just see them going down. So you feel that they're close enough to grab them. Is it a scenario where in any distress situation, it's better if you personally don't go out there to get them?
A couple of things, and that's why the prevention is so critical. It is almost humanly impossible to not respond. What ends up happening is if you see a friend or a loved one going down, you're going to reach out. Yeah. You can't help yourself. So the instinct that we want to have is, I reach and then I reach to the person. So if I see William or you going down, I look to Lynette and I hold her and I reach for you. So now we're trying to get her trained, and she has to know the same. So we have to sit down and have these discussions with our children and young adults. In case of, what are we going to do? Some basic, there's no trained person in the water. Hold someone, hold something, and then reach. Yeah. Okay, so you want, and start yelling. You have to be very clear and quick thinking. You'll start yelling. So the minute you see the emergency, you'll scream for somebody. William, go call mommy. You know, my lady, hold on to the tree, and then we just start our best. So that's one. The purpose of the flotation devices around is for assistance. If we're in a boat, there's a ring like what you have, and it has a long rope to it. You throw that to the person. So as many people as can, it is worth the little money, or the money, even if it's not little for you, the investment. Throw it out. Let them hold on to that. Because if you're not skilled, they're going to take you down. The rescue training is a whole series, but if you do attempt to go to someone and you're a strong swimmer, your legs matter, and people don't realize that a lot of people don't have the swimming technique in their legs. And so in training, they have to pull up bricks, they have to do a lot of things and hold a brick like this because it's the leg work you need. Because when you hold someone, it's your leg that will bring you to the shore.
And
so
a panic person is very strong.
Right, very. So you approach them from behind and you're allowed to even hit them. You've got to control them. You cannot.
You don't come face forward. Why?
Because they'll take you down. And they'll take you down because they're panicking. And you approach them from behind but under the water. The reason you don't want to be on level with their face, you become their salvation and they'll reach out and hold on. If you're from behind, and
calm down, Marlene. You're allowed to do that.
I'm showing you how you're pushing.
If you're from behind and under the water, they won't try to reach your face because you're under the water. They don't reach in. So if it's a smaller child than you, hold them at the waist. Go under the water, stay under the water, grab them at their waist and start swimming right under the water. You come up for your breath and you stay underneath. They won't try to touch you if you're under the water.
Again, with lifeguard training, that's one of the skills you have to have. So, being able to dive underwater for a long time, in addition to carrying weights.
Right. And then if we brought this just to demonstrate, you will put this on you at all times. Okay, so you have a rescue. You can put it behind a person like this and try to get their arm if they're out. When you get to the river and they're out, you have this, you'll put this underneath them so you're getting assistance for the longer swim. That's what you're doing while you have this around your body. So you're being safe and you can drag and tow a little better. But it's the same thing. It's underneath from the water, bringing them up. This can bring you up very easily. So there are several techniques. I do want to mention, because I'm not sure what we are on time, that other things, because we're now trying to bring around Coast Guard, YMCA, and Sea Scouts to work harder on, instead of fear of water, because we don't want that, is the water safety and more trained people. Our vision is even to have lifeguard training in every school. So we'll work with the ministry, but we need to coordinate that together. So we've sat down, and they asked me to remember to mention, boats coming up in water, you've got to slow down in the swim area, because you can create problems for swimmers just with the weight, not much. You have to look down, shut it, slow it down, look around for the safety of swimmers, check for the heads.
Yeah,
and swimmers should be aware of well-trafficked areas by boats.
Like the split. There are always people swimming and boats going through.
Around by Placencia at the point. So there are several areas, so you need to do that. Also, vessels with motor coming up on vessels without motor, whether it's a canoe, a kayak, or a sailboat, they've got to give way to those unmotorized boats, because when same thing, their weight create problem. You never know if the person in there is seasoned or not. If you are in these vessels, make sure you have enough numbers, your life jacket, the life jacket is secure. And in the boating area, do the same. If you go out and say, well, we're done swimming by 4, 5 o'clock in the evening, sun is still up, now we'll head home. The question becomes, do you have the right light for navigation? Do you have enough fuel to get in? Is your anchor in good condition? Have you pulled it out and have enough length of chain or rope on it, and is it properly secured? So there are several things, and likewise the drinking and driving on the sea. So these are some of the safety tips from the boating end that we have to take to get the family back home safely as well. And do you have any navigation devices and communication devices? And it's battery and powered up. So if this is the emergency phone device, make sure you're not using it to use internet all day while you're out there, because when you need it at home, traveling home, you're into problems. Make sure you have enough gas to get back home. So these are some of the other things that we can do.
Put in just enough gas. We want to go right there.
And also, as a boater, please make sure you have one of these, because you want to throw it out. Somebody has to man the boat, and the lifesaver one that tosses out with a long rope.
And everyone has to have a life jacket.
Okay,
All right. Well, ladies, we want to thank you for joining us and providing some very important tips to parents. Anybody who's going anywhere near water need to be able to think preventative. Hopefully that's the area that people will focus on, and in the worst case scenario, we'll use the advice that you just offered.
Well, I want to say thanks for having us, and I want to wish everyone a blessed and safe Easter. Enjoy the love, the sun, the sea, the sand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Tiffany Simpson talking about a special program that she has created for children with autism. Stay tuned.
For now.